Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Gaarawarr's Guide, our deep dive show here on Saturday mornings. I am Gaarawarr. I'm going to be your host for today. Today's topic is Gaarawarr's Guide to Difficult Strahd Variants. Now, I know normally we dive into systems and things that have to do with the game, but we're going to take a little detour into what is effectively, I mean, we've talked about the patron system in general, but this is a kind of a look at just one specific patron and kind of the things that they restrict, and maybe tackle a couple of those variants. For those of you who don't have Strahd necessarily unlocked yet, still stick around because a lot of the things that we're talking about in terms of strategies and adaptability can be applied to not only any of the other patrons, but also just the game in general and its variants. So we're going to go over all of that. Before I even fired up the stream, I was asked by Jay, do you have a costume for today, or we get Bob Ross again? No, Bob Ross. I am wearing a costume. I am dressed as a voter, folks. It is voting time in the United States. If you're not doing early voting, the voting day is coming up here in a couple days. This is what it looks like when you vote, folks. Go out and make sure you're voting not just for like presidential elections, but also for the local stuff around you, because affecting your local government is arguably at times even more impactful and to your well-being, like your daily well-being, than the presidential elections. But make sure you do that, folks. If you're in the United States, well, anywhere, obviously, if you have the right to vote, exercise it. Oh, and I have a question. Did I manage to vote today? No, because they opened up early voting at 9 a.m. and 9 a.m. my time. It's 11 my time. The lines consistently every day have been about 2 hours plus long for early voting, because they moved everything to one location for my entire county. So I will vote at my precinct polling location on Tuesday. I will go first thing in the morning and stay there until I get in. All right, so on to the topic of today's discussion. We are diving into Strahd, so I thought I would give you a look on a new account where it doesn't unlocked. What we kind of have to deal with Strahd, and then we're going to dive into a couple things. Unlike a lot of the systems discussions, where I can kind of talk about all of those things in a row and just highlight them, when we're talking about variants, I can't just hop into a variant and complete it really fast. So today's going to be a little different, but we will try to do a handful. Ooh, I got to bring up my list. Hey, that's that page. We're going to try to do a handful of variants today. Maybe just a couple, but we'll talk about a handful. With Strahd, though, his restriction that goes to all of his variants is only in champions. Oops. Only champions with an intelligence score of 13 or higher can be used. He's a bit of a snob. He wants to make sure you're at least smart enough to have a conversation with him if he's going to do business with you. So this is the requirement. You have to have completed Towering Expectations. Towering Expectations is basically just the final adventure in Barovia. Barovia is found in the Sword Coast, for those of you who haven't found it yet. So they're actually going to be doing Towering Expectations on the improvised champion stream on Monday. So if you want to hop over there, they're going to be narrating it as they go through it. And you have to have 40 champions unlocked. This is the most important part, because Strahd is the most challenging patron we currently have in the game, which means he restricts a lot of things, and obviously his target levels are much higher than they're not much higher, but they're higher than the other patrons. And those two things combined mean you need to have a very large and diverse bench of champions, or you're going to have a real hard time with his stuff. And then the cost's negligible by the time you reach Strahd in the game. 10 medium bounty contracts, which come out of gold chests, and 20 silver chests. Pretty inexpensive. So today we are going to be talking about, well, we're going to talk about a few, and we'll blend our conversations here. We'll talk about a variety of variants that were mentioned in the thread I posted on the subreddit. So posted earlier this week. Go ahead and, let me know what are the difficult Strahd variants. Like, what are the ones that you're having trouble with specifically? And then I grabbed some out of there. So we're going to talk about some of the ones that were named in there, and we're actually going to do a couple of them. We're going to start, though, let me pull it up here, with one we all know and love, and sarcasm is dripping. A little bit of Veterans Brigade. So, for those of you who have never done Veterans Brigade, we'll just talk about that first. Veterans Brigade says only evergreen champions can be used. So right off the bat, all of the event champions that you've ever unlocked are now useless for this variant. None of those matter. You know, the Zorbu that you've dumped 500 item levels into, the Krull that you've dumped 1,000, like Avrin, none of those matter. It's all about your core and evergreen champions. Those are the only ones they're going to make available, and then Strahd, of course, is going to limit that even further. From Area 23 onward, Jot the Quasit joins the party in Slot 4. Now, Slot 4, they've numbered these in some unintelligible way. They don't really tell us. They don't really tell us what Slot 4 is. Slot 4 is the middle slot here in the Sword Coast, though. I don't know where they're counting from. I don't know where the numbers start. I don't know. But that's where it's going to show. All bosses have 50 points of armored health. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy. So not only do you have to do this with a limited roster, all the bosses are armored. So I already prepped this one. And I actually had to have... I've done this variant before. The developers at CNE were kindly enough to go in and undo it for me so I could demonstrate it today. But going through the bench, you're going to be looking at things like Brunor and Nayeli. Like these are your starters, right? Like your core champions. Oh, no, we're not going to swap Archon in because we can't use them anyway. But again, Strahd wants intelligence of 13, so a lot of these aren't even going to be usable, right? Like they're great characters, but they're not super smart. We can't use them. Some of these that you'll see on the field here are only available with a feat. So with Strahd, there are a handful of champions who can apply an intelligence feat. Celeste is going to be our example here. The Keen Mind feat. So for those of you who are wondering, what are good, what are some of these stat things for and when are they good? Well, Keen Mind for anyone who's on the cusp of qualifying for Strahd is a good idea. So normally Celeste is at a 12 intelligence, but Keen Mind slots are up to 13, and that's what we need. So people like Celeste, Gromma, Narak, he can actually be useful in Strahd, Dritzt, Neris, and Zorbu, although arguably Neris and Zorbu are in the same slot. Arguably Zorbu's the one most people are going to want, but they're both available because, there may be variants where you can't use Zorbu, but you can use Neris. So keep that in mind. Those are kind of the ones that you're going to want that feat for. And specifically, while a lot of those you can just either buy as a gem purchase, like Neris, I believe hers is purchasable with gems. Some come out of chests. Some are in places like Strahd's very own patron shop. So if you want Gromma to qualify in Strahd, you actually have to get up to the point where he'll say, okay, sure, I'll let you use her, and you buy this feat. So I've decked out this formation. I've kind of prepped it. Like, hey, would this be functional? One of the things we want to look at when we're building a formation when we're super limited in this way, and these are my options. I don't have anything else for Celeste. I don't have anything else here. Like, these are my core or evergreen champions in these slots. Except for here, we do have Hitch as an option for Delana because Hitch is the evergreen swap there. But if we look through, we have Dritzt here. We'll talk about why we're not using some of these. There's Aquaria. Jamila doesn't qualify, but Dragonbait does. Dragonbait's a great addition to your roster to have a nice evergreen tank. Arcane does not. So one of the things we want to look at is we want to make sure when we're super limited like this that we're not wasting any of the positions. Right now, we are wasting one of our positions. Most of these people are contributing to the formation except for Jarlaxle. Jarlaxle's contributing Goldfind, but he's not buffing Delana, right? So this is, while it looks like it might be good at the start, And if you have an outrageous amount of item levels, it might be, and I say that while I'm sitting on like 1,200 item levels, 1,300 in some cases for Delana, that's still not enough to necessarily make Delana viable for this type of limited formation. So because we're wasting a slot, so we don't have any way to swap out Jarlaxle, so we need to use Jarlaxle. Well, Jarlaxle is a DPS champion, or, you know, he provides gold find, but we want to really make him a DPS here. Well, that's really all we can do. If you'll note, we can only give him, he's only got one DPS feat. Everything else is gold, so, you know, even when he's trying to do damage, he wants to make the money. So we want to actually focus this more around Jarlaxle as our DPS, which means now Delana is wasted, because Delana doesn't buff. So we bring Hitch in, Hitch buffs Jarlaxle, and now we have actually a full formation. This is the same reasoning why we're not using Dritz. Dritz does either the DPS or nothing. He can provide some gold find, but he can't do a whole lot else. And the other option we have here is Aquaria. Now, Aquaria is a fantastic buffer. Where in that slot, we're using Tyrell as a buffer. Aquaria, though, wants magic users, and she really wants to be in Waterdeep. That's where she's really going to shine. We're not really using a lot. I mean, we have some magic users, but our DPS and one of our supports is not. A couple in our tank, so we're not really in an ideal situation for Aquaria. So we're going to use Tyrell, and then we've got the front of the pack. We've got our Sorial friend, Dragonbait, who probably going into this smelled heavily of ham. So in terms of specializations, though, we have the obvious specialization on Celeste, where we threw her into War Domain because we need as much help as we can get here in terms of damages, and we can easily put her in the second column, so she can buff up front. We've got, what do we have Ashara in? I think she might not be in the right. Oh, we did Potpourri with her. Nope, that's going to have to change. Let's go ahead and swap Ashara up. Ideally, we're going to want her in a situation, I think I was testing that as if she was going to be DPS, but I decided that's probably not the best bet. Again, because we have Jarlaxle, and Jarlaxle can't support. Now, when we come here, we already picked the Elves and Dwarves, which is going to cover Jarlaxle, because he is a Drow elf. So once we get over here, it doesn't matter as much. We've got a Sorial, so we could use that. We don't have any half-elves or half-orcs. Believe, no, I think it's just humans. Gnomes half, so we'll just go with this one, and we'll leave it there. Right, Jarlaxle's probably in piracy. Yep, I did put him in piracy form. Since we're using him as DPS, we'll want to switch that up to Master of Disguise. It isn't a huge increase in DPS, but because I have a lot of favor in the Sword Coast, which is where this campaign dwells, we're at E43. We don't necessarily need his gold find at all. Now what we're going to want to do, Tyrell, obviously, since he's not in his moose form, is in wild shape. Or is not in wild shape, is in Moonbeam. Makos is in Dark Blessing. So they're all buffing. Hitch is in Charismatic. That is his kind of optimal situation. Now, in terms of feats, this is going to matter because, again, we're in a limited group. We want to make sure we're using feats that are optimized. So this is something that you want to shoot for. If you don't have these feats, you can try Veterans Brigade for Strahd anyway, because who knows? I mean, you may not need all the power, and some of these aren't a ton. So this is Crusader's Mantle by 80%, but the normal one, you know, we could do healing if we felt we needed some more healing. We could do like buffing by 25%, right? Like there's other options here, but we're gonna go with the biggest one that we can for the moment. This has some damage on Ashara, but she doesn't have anything else, and I don't own these other ones. Ideally, we would want to jump in with, say, Bonds of Kir Sabal, but that's a big buy. We're going to see if we can do it without it. And then for Hitch, Coil Daggers and Excess Dagger Storage are the hands-down best combination you can get for Hitch. You run those with Charismatic, that's going to give you the best continuous support or DPS, depending on how you're using him. I did a deep dive into testing those, and that's just how that works out. We've got some gold find over here, but we're going to want to swap this over to support, right? So we're just going to make some minor changes. Just make sure this is how you want to go through to make sure you're using the most optimal things for this run, right? Like he's in support form, so we might want some tankage here instead of the buff, but we'll get a buff from Shin State, so that's going to work out fine. And we're done. Right? So, obviously, normally I would have familiars on the field. I'd have them leveling up. I had to prep this so that we could do this live on stream. So, as you can kind of see as I spoil it, here's the boss. This formation is enough. We get Jot the Quasit in the middle. We hit our boss stage. We see Jarlaxle doing his thing. I'm not even going to hit some ultimates here unless we die. Jarlaxle, not the most ideal DPS after the early game, because he's always going to attack from the behind. He's only going to get one hit. On armored bosses, that means you have to live long enough to actually get through this. It would have been nice if he'd picked off all the little enemies first, but that's just not the way it's going to work. So he's going to do his thing and just pick off those armor things one at a time. So it helps that Dragonbait is super healthy. Right, he's running in the EO 6 health. I've got a good number of guilds, and a good number of item levels. And this is all just from opening all your silver and gold chests. So all of these champions that we're using here for Veterans Brigade get their item levels from duplicates out of normal silver and gold chests. So, lots of gem farming, lots of opening chests, hunting for shinies. This is the only shiny I'm missing. So obviously I have a lot of power coming into this, right? I've got all blessings for every campaign. I've got all the perks for all the current patrons, and I have a very well fleshed out Modron core, right? So this is the first free core that you get at level 15, right? So this is a lot of power that adds to your runs. So if you're having trouble with some of Strahd variants, making sure that you have these other power sources maxed out as best you can helps a lot. If you're still early on in a lot of your patron stuff, but you're trying to do something that's you find super difficult, just skip it. Just note it down that, see how far that you get, note how far away you are, and come back when you have more power. Things like a Modron core, like that fully fleshed out Modron core, can add anywhere from 50 to 100 levels depending on the situation. And, depending on how fully fleshed out it is, right? So you don't want to underestimate the power that you can get just from tapping into one of those other progression systems. So that's Veterans Brigade. Again, this is basically the kind of formation most people are going to use if they're missing someone here, or if they went heavy into a certain champion, or if their item levels were super high and they could run Delina. Like, there might be some minor changes, but ultimately this is what we're looking at, because we're getting Tyrell adjacent to as few people as possible, so his Moonbeam is maxed out. Hitch can be anywhere, bouncing his daggers. Makos is not adjacent to the DPS, so Dark Blessing applies. Ashara can be anywhere. Celeste is adjacent to the tank, like right behind the tank line for healing, but also adjacent to the DPS. And then we've got Dragonbait in his just his default right spec. Let's see what it's called here. Herbs and Spices. So we didn't, basically his left spec adjusts where you would place like support champions, and we didn't really need to do that, so we just went with the default one and it was enough. But that's something you could also test changing when you run into roadblocks. But yeah, this is one of those rare cases where everyone's going to have these champions, or should. Like, the only one you might not have yet is if you hadn't unlocked Dragonbait yet, but go do that. It's easier than ever before now. I did it on my Gaarawarr challenge stream, which is a new player account that's less than 2 months old, just barely less than 2 months old, and we breezed right through Dragonbait. No issues at all. Like, literally auto attack. Didn't have to launch an ultimate. So there is enough power in the game, even for new champions, to unlock all of the event champion or evergreen champions in the game without a problem. So we will hop out of here, and we will attack another of the Strahd variants that were brought up in the list. We had two of the options that we have before us here are both in Waterdeep. These are some of the more difficult ones. Wait, what? This is deep in the Waterdeep campaign. Only champions with Wisdom 13 or lower and Int 13 or lower can be used. And then the patron restriction is only Int score of 13 or higher. So this is pretty crazy because you have to have 13 Int. You can't have higher, you can't have lower, and you also have to have Wisdom lower than 13. Super restrictive variant in terms of your champion pool, right? Because holy cow. And then the Gargoyle was another one that was brought up. The big difference is this is 450 as a goal. This is 550, so much deeper. In the Gargoyles run, generally champions with a magic base attack can be used, but a few extra helping hands tag along as well. In each non-boss area, enemies from a different faction attack. The faction members will not count toward quest progress, nor will they drop gold. Each faction also has a unique boon granted by Halaster, which will be active for the entire area. So basically, in non-boss areas, you're going to have a lot of crazy mechanics that get thrown at you that you're just going to have to handle. So, but the main restriction here is, along with the patron restriction, is that only magic base attacks can be used. So we're going to throw in a little bit of, I think we'll hop into Wait What. It's a lower restriction, and we'll throw some speed potions down, and we'll see how quickly we can complete it while we talk about how we would build this formation out. I believe I already have one saved, but as you can see, I mean, none of the champions on my bench right now that we had prepped for the last Strahd run are even eligible here. None of them. They're all marked out. So we're going to have to go one by one. We only get our friend Cathris. We can have either Regis or Crydal. I'm going to hop in at Regis because initially filling this out, I want to look for support champions. And while Crydal can support, we already know that he wants to, in his ideal situation, he wants to be with other heroes of Baldur's Gate. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to join us today. Based off what we're seeing so far. So we'll go with Regis, who can be a more generic support. And this variant really comes down to how deep is your bench. If you don't have the champions that you see here, you're going to have a real hard time on that. Kind of like the hard time I'm having talking, apparently. So we're running, again, a very limited crew. Again, this is all about a bench because these are all event champions. So if you do not have them yet, even with this very limited roster, this is what, this is 6 people. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is 6 people. And we've got things that have, as you can see, we've got armored enemies, and not one of these is a tank. Well, I mean, that's going to be challenging, right? Because you have to be able to push all the way through to the end of the game and do this with a very limited roster that doesn't have a tank, which means you have to kill everything very quickly, all the way up through 450, or you can't do this, right? Like, click damage will click through armored things, but it only counts, if you'll note, it's not working all the time. It only counts once every 5 to 6 seconds. I believe it's 6. And that counts whether you're doing it manually or whether your familiars are doing it. Wow, my voice. All right. Apparently I ate a frog this morning. So it's going to be very challenging to try to overpower this with click damage. We'll load in this formation. Or we won't. I had already kind of pre-built, and it's the Neothalid Boss. I'd already kind of pre-built a formation when I was messing with this last night. We're totally going to die here. This is the biggest challenge to this adventure, is you have this boss. I'm going to go ahead and choose what I think are going to be the best specializations for this situation, which is basically all the damages. Birdsong is going to be our DPS. She is neutral. And she's going to need to attack quickly. Alright. And away we go. So they are trying to... The Neothalid likes to eat your champions, if you don't notice. It's also armored. And it's always going to be armored. Let's just put some familiars out here. Okay. So this is it. This is our entire formation. We get 6 people for this. This is the challenge that the high-end variants bring as they get more and more restrictive, and as you add a patron on who cuts the champion pool down even more. You have to figure out, like with every part of this game, how you're going to use these champions, how you're going to put them in your formation to actually make this scenario work. We're going to throw a lot of speed on this, folks. And we're going to try to see if we can burn through 450 levels of Strahd's... Wait, what? Yeah, this is probably the best titled one recently, just because really, wait, what doesn't make sense at first, and then you're like, then you see the restrictions, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the strategy is here. Our primary strategy, first of all, is kill everything before it can attack us. The hardest boss on here is that Neothalid. Now, the good thing about him is he just kind of usually does that thing where he grabs one of you with his mouth tentacles, picks you up and starts to carry you off. All of those are segmented health. He is segmented health, so what you need to defeat anything that's like that, that's lots of segmented health, is quick multi-attackers. Those are the best option, which is why we are using Birdsong as our DPS. Birdsong has a very fast attack, 3.75 seconds, but she also hits multiple times. So as you level her up with impressive blade work, she gets additional attacks on targets, and she gets those as you go along. Through her leveling progress, shows she can attack multiple times against the target and do it very quickly. So she basically bounces out, hits a lot of stuff, comes back, is there for just a moment to catch her breath, and then bounces out again. So everything else is built around supporting her. So we put Shandy not in speed mode, but in her fire damage mode that buffs explosive arrow. So this is for each enemy hit, Shandy increases the damage of the column in front of her. We went there instead of doing Agile Allies because, as you can see in this formation, she's not surrounded by a lot of people. We actually put the surround focus on Avron because Avron likes to be surrounded by people that he has mirror image on. And with this formation, we can put 4 mirror images around him completely. Because everyone, well, occasionally it'll drop back on Shandy, but a lot of times we're going to have the full power, and we can hopefully afford to wait for that a little bit. But primarily, he's going to have 3 or 4 mirror images up around him at a time, which gives him his maximum boosts. We've got Grim in here. Now, this is probably, some people are going, why do we have an extra DPS in here? Well, the funny thing about Beetle and Grim is that while Grim is the DPS, Grim stacks up his special order debuff. So Grim causes enemies to take extra damage, and it can stack up to 10 times. So it starts at well, here with my gear, 1 EO4, and it can stack up to 10 times. It basically looks like a glass beer mug, and it slowly fills up with beer as you attack more. So we can use that debuff, and then if we get into trouble and we need a little more power, we can do his little swap, his tag team swap with Beetle. And Beetle will come in as a support champion, 2 spaces away from our DPS, and we'll apply a support buff. There's that beer mug. We'll apply a support buff to help out along with the debuff that Beetle, that Grim placed, because that will actually stick around. Why did I need to put out more familiars? One of the things we're actually going to want to do just to make sure that we kill everything and keep everything away is we're going to throw some huge fire breath potions down. Now, again, those aren't going to help us a whole lot against the bosses, but they're going to help us against all the trash mobs that come in, because we don't want any of them getting near us. So, we've got Shandy buffing the front column, which is basically focused on Birdsong. We have Averin buffing Birdsong and surrounded by as many people as possible. We've got Beetle and Grim over here applying their support, starting with the debuff to start, and then we'll, if we need to swap in Beetle in for more support buffage on top of that, we can. Regis is buffing the column behind, and he's debuffing enemies for melee damage, because that's what Birdsong does. And then Cthulhu, because we can't necessarily put Cthulhu... Normally, we could create a situation where Cthulhu is the furthest away from Birdsong and thus use kind of his most optimized spec. We're instead going to run Velvet Touch, which basically targets all non-adjacent champions with his buff. That's the one kind of suboptimal setup we have in this situation. Well, I mean, we could have had a better agile allies, but because of the way we're setting up this formation, this is going to work best for us. So Cthulhu is going to buff over there. Now, again, we do have options. We do have Krydle. Krydle likes to buff the back two rows. Technically, he could come in, so it is a possibility if we want, if we need to try something out later. But the way we want to do this is basically just throw something in and see if it works. So these are the only options we have currently. And we're gonna see how that goes. Now, obviously, we have quite a few levels to get through. So while we're doing that, let's talk about a couple other variants. First off, one of the other ones that came up in the thread I posted on the subreddit was one that we see a lot for all patrons, and that's Tale of Two Champions. This is found in the Descent into Avernus campaign. If we hop over and look real quick, it's going to be right here under Tale of Two Cities. Tale of Two Champions. You can only field 2 champions at a time. Yeah. So the challenge with that isn't so much which 2 champions are going to, like, which tank champion and which DPS champion are going to get me to the end. That isn't actually how you want to think about it. It's actually a bit of a favor check, because you're going to be pushing through that currently with your click damage. So this is where we realize that click damage is this infinitely scaling thing. Unlike champions that can hit a soft cap, and then their damage increase just drops through the floor, click damage increases the same all the way up currently through the spectrum. You basically just need a lot of favor. And when you're champions, you start out with, you don't need fire breath potions. What you will need are clairvoyance potions. So your gold find potions, stack those up from the beginning and keep them up through the whole thing. Because you just want as much favor as possible to upgrade your click damage constantly. And then starting off at the beginning, you throw in gold find champions, again, because all you want to do is make money, 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 so that you can upgrade your click damage. When you get to the point where you're not killing things immediately and they're coming up and getting to your actual champions, and I set them all the way in the back of the formation, so it takes as long as possible to get there, then you'll want to swap out one of your gold find champions with a tank. I recommend, in that situation, Gromma. I like to do Gromma in her Arctic spec because the interesting thing about Gromma is she gets the same amount of health no matter what spec she's in. So she doesn't have to be in her tank spec to get all of her health bonuses. So putting her in Arctic spec does 2 things. A, she gets all of her health because she gets them everywhere. But B, she has her Freezing Breeze debuff, which not only increases the damage done by anything to enemies, which is what we want since we're doing click damage, right? But she also slows their movement down, which means they're going to take longer to get to her. And she slows their attack speed down, which means it's going to take longer for them to kill her when they do get to her. So we want to throw her kind of as our tank in that situation. And then continue pushing forward with just tank Gromma, like Gromma in that situation, and with another gold find for as long as you can. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you're not clicking, you're not doing enough damage, and then you're going to want to swap in another debuffer, because again, you're doing click damage, and click damage, you just need a generic debuffer, like, say, our friend Grim here. He works, as do multiple other debuffers. So depending on which one you have, you throw them in behind Gromma, and you just let debuffs and click damage do the work. Then you may run into situations where you have to stop and farm for a while. Sadly, you don't get to Izaka farm. That's not a thing there, unless you're in like the base version of it, or she's not available in Strahd's version though. But you need as much of that gold find as possible, and you just need as much favor as possible. I completed it. Let's see what my Tiamat's favor is at E37. That's specifically why I raised my Tiamat's favor, was to be able to do that variant. So I know that works. You might be able to get away with lower, but... So the Tale of Two Champions is basically just a favor check. So keep that in mind. And then, let's see, we already dealt with the Veterans Brigade. We talked about the Gargoyle, but we may, if we get through this quickly, we may throw the Gargoyle on in the background while we answer questions, general questions. Prisoners of Lolth was one that came up, and I have to say, this is the Sword Coast campaign. This is in the Underdark, which is, if you haven't seen the Underdark yet, yes, there is an Underdark. We only have one adventure in it. Prisoners of Lolth is one I haven't even completed yet. All drow enemies are blessed by Lolth, granting them an initial set of armored hit points that must be cleared before their health can be damaged. So we're dealing with, I think it's like 3 or 4 ticks of armored health, which is a problem. And let me tell you why. It's more of a problem to deal with 3 or 4 armored health units than it is bosses with 50, because the amount of damage it takes to remove those segments is based off the total health divided by the number of segments. I think you see where I'm going with this. So when you divide that total health by 50, you get some more easily manageable segments, as we saw, as we're seeing with the Neothalid now, and as we just saw in the last adventure. It's not as difficult when it's 50. When it's like 3 or 4, suddenly you've got huge amounts of health you have to get through, which means you need huge amounts of damage, which is why only champions with a strength score of 15 or higher can be used. But there are very few champions that have a strength score of 15 or higher and an intelligence of 13 or higher in the game currently. So as it stands right now, this is basically one of those where either you're going to just have outrageous amounts of favor and try to overpower it with click damage, or you just wait. They're adding new champions all the time. We just had one added recently. So you just need to kind of wait and see, and get to the point where you actually have people that you're gonna have more people that qualify for this, and then it'll be easily doable. It's the patron variants are one of those things where you're not always going to be able to do them right away. Sometimes that restriction is overly restrictive, and it's just impossible in the current state of the game to do. But then they're going to add things like new champions or a Modron core, and suddenly you're going to be granted lots and lots of extra power that allow you to easily breeze through that, or at least, have a nice challenging fight and make it happen with your limited champion pool. So right now, I think Prisoner of Lolth is kind of in that situation where we're going to need more power in general for the game. Again, unless you have either outrageous item levels on the few champions that are available there, or you have tons of favor. But I don't necessarily encourage you to just dump item levels into those champions just to try to get through that one variant. I would say just give it time and see what happens. The same case goes for Strahd's Show of Strength, which I believe is also in Avernus. And I know it is. I just did it yesterday. I did Vajra's version yesterday on my stream. Show of Strength is, again, one of those situations where there just aren't enough champions available. So if we hop over and go to Hell, I believe it's down here. Nope, that's Madcap. Is it this one? Yes. So again, only champions with strength 16 or higher can be used. So again, this is the same situation where they want to combine strength with intelligence, and frankly, that's just not a thing currently with a lot of our champions. So those are kind of the what are deemed the more difficult variants currently in the game. for Strahd, per se. You know, there are going to be, with the other patrons, there are going to be other ways. You have a whole different pool of champions available to you. So some of them are easier than others. For instance, Vajra is actually, even though she's the second champion and should be more difficult than Mert, she actually ends up being a little easier than Mert, because a lot of the currently meta champions are available to Vajra. So Mert is a bit more restrictive, even though his target levels are lower. And we may talk about Mert difficult variants on a future show. For anything else, if I didn't list off a variant that you think is difficult for Strahd, it may just be that either you just don't have a deep enough bench yet, or you don't have like the power, either through your Modron core or through perks. When I first started out, tons of Strahd stuff was difficult, but that was because I didn't have any perks. And then you focus down the left side when you're first starting off, and you only fill the right side just enough to let you get to the left side, because these are much more powerful when you're doing his variants. And then you flesh out the right side as you get further and further and get more and more influence. But maxing this out, then let me go back, you know, as I completed this, let me go back to ones that were super difficult for me at first, and breeze right through them, because there was a lot of power gained through the left side of this curve. And that starts with patrons in general. As you do more and more of their left side, you're stronger in theirs. But as you finish the right side, you then become stronger in the others, right? Pretty straightforward, but keep that in mind. So things that early on seem like you're never going to be able to do them, once you grab more power out of these various areas, you're going to be able to go back and knock right out. In general, that's what I recommend. If you try it once and it's just, you're a ways off, just put it on a list and say, you know, mark down how many levels you needed of progression and come back to it at a later time after you've gotten more power, because all that power can just easily grant you levels, especially from things like your Modron. So flesh those power curves out and come back to it. Okay. I think that's everything in general about Strahd and the various variants. So we're just going to have to wait out another 200 levels. We've flown through this pretty quickly. But we'll answer some of the questions that are pertaining to Strahd right after this. Okay, let's see if we've got some specific Strahd stuff over here. Strahd's currency is Barovian coins. We have a question about ruby coins. We'll come back to that later. Why do some of the champions have X's on them? Because they're not available in this variant. So this one is marked off. He just isn't available. This one isn't available. So they're marked off for different reasons. Like this is a circle with a line through it, and it's got, you know, a little symbol. That's more for Strahd. So this is saying this champion isn't available for Strahd because she does not have enough intelligence. Whereas Jarlaxle has enough intelligence, but under wait what, we also need Wisdom 13 or lower, and his int can only be 13, so he doesn't qualify for wait what at all. So we get an X with this kind of generic champion lock image behind it. So that means specifically this champion isn't available for this specific variant, whereas this one means they're not available for any Strahd variants in their current situation. You cannot get Nayeli with a feat. There is no +5 int feat, so Nayeli's never going to be available for Strahd. Let's see. We've got a lot of general questions. We'll get to those after we tackle the specific Strahd stuff. So if you've got questions about Strahd as a patron or his variants, throw them in chat. Jay will toss them in a little document for me. Strahd really likes immense difficulty, right? I don't know that he likes it. The thing is with the variants, each patron is going to start off at a higher requirement, like completion area requirement, than the base variant. Currently, Mertz starts off as kind of the lowest level requirement, Vajra's is like 25 above his, and Strahd's is 25 above hers. So they're just kind of ticking up. Have announced, Codename Entertainment has announced there will be more patrons coming. And a future patron, we don't know if it's the next one, I think a lot of us want it to be the next one, that will be arriving, will be Zariel from the Descent into Avernus campaign. So she will we don't know how she's going to, I mean, obviously she's going to be the newest champion. Is she going to go up in difficulty? We would assume so, right? Because Descent into Avernus is a much harder campaign. So she may end up, down here and have a higher requirement even than Strahd. But we don't know what her restrictions would be in that sense, right? We don't know. We know she will arrive when we finish that campaign, but we don't know when that's going to happen either. So I believe they've said they don't think it's going to happen this year. So 2021 maybe. I think that's optimistic because that assumes 2020 will ever end. But maybe. Gromma int feat. Yeah, Gromma has an int feat. Right, she does. She does. I've got it slotted. But her wisdom is too high for this variant. So, womp womp. Yeah, I have all of the champions that have an int feat right now. What I do is I go through, and I went over that list. Celeste, Gromma, Rakdritz, Neris, and Zorbu. They've all got the feat slotted right now. But there's something else that's keeping them from being able to qualify for this mission, right? So this is saying that, yes, Zorbu has the int to qualify, but he does not have something else for both of these. They have something else, and one of the stats that just doesn't work. So they're both at 13, which means their wisdom is not lower than 13 or lower. How do you make the levels go so fast? Mogramex, we're using a triple stack of speed potions. So when you use the huge, the large, and the medium together, that caps you at 10 times speed. So we're going 10 times as fast as the game would normally go. We're doing that specifically so we can burn through all of these levels and try to show, what type of formations might work. I did wait what a while back, and I don't remember if this is the formation I used or not. So we're going to find out. But, again, that's what I generally say you should do is just throw a formation in. Like, really, the swap we've got is Krydle. Otherwise, we play around with placement. But try it out. Get to your wall. Don't worry about making it perfect right away. Get to your wall and then start making adjustments. In general, that's just a good rule in general. Am I unable to do the Chaotic Decisionist because I just don't have all of the champions? It's possible. It's possible that you maybe, if you can't field a full team, or it's a suboptimal team, like I said before, where, someone is being wasted, that could be it. What you need to just go through is look and see, and there are websites out there available that can let you do this. See which champions are available for that specific, like overall out of the entire roster, available for that specific variant, and then see which ones you have, see where those others might fall, and see what maybe you need to target picking up in future time gates if that's like the last thing you get. I don't know. Again, I think it's totally fine if you just wait on one and skip it until you pick up the champions. They'll come around in the event, but if you want it sooner, you can grab a time gate. Just remember your champion won't be very well geared out. Just picking up in a time gate. Which brings me to another point I didn't mention. Like, when we were on Veterans Brigade, I mean, we know those are all core and evergreen champions. They're going to have tons and tons of item levels on them. Well, as you progress through the game and get higher and higher, they're just going to flesh out. On my account, obviously, they have a ton because this is 3 years worth of silver and gold chests. But some of these other champions, like that we're using right now, these aren't so high. Here's 58. Here's 78. What do we got over here? There's 150. He's doing a little bit better. Here's at 105. So if we go and look, we can do this with a blacksmithing contract just by clicking on it. We can go and look what our average item levels are. So my Cathris is at 122. My Regis is only at 80, though, average. So we're looking at a fairly lower in terms of item levels compared to, say, that core evergreen crew I was just running, right? What else do we got? Shandy's at 84. Who else do I have in? Grimm's at 86. Birdsong is probably the highest at 179. This is because at one point in time, Birdsong was a meta champion in terms of DPS. That was back when Azaka first was released. Birdsong was kind of one of the major keys to unlocking Azaka in the beginning. So as you can see, you know, some of these champions that we're using in this formation, even my Averin is only at 81. They don't have a ton of item levels. They may have some guilds, right? Which can be helpful. But you know, if this is one of your challenging variants, and you can't beat it, know that, you know, getting them up a little bit can help. You don't necessarily need to go all in and do outrageous levels on them, because those weren't outrageous levels. Full epics is probably required. But above that, like full epics is going to get you anywhere from the mid 40s to you know, into the 70s potentially, just that hunt to get full epics. So, you know, there shouldn't be a whole lot of additional item levels you need on top of that. And you can do that via blacksmith contracts. But I specifically keep all of my champions. The lowest average item level I have on any of my champions right now is 80. I call it my floor, right? My floor started at around 50. And then as I had enough blacksmithing contracts stored up, I'd bump it up on all of the champions below that were in the 50 range up to 60. Now it's worked its way up to 80. So 90 would be the next, but right now I definitely don't have enough contracts to get everyone to 90. There's so many different ways to increase powers. Are there any sort of hints guide us to the more efficient way to progress? So I do have, Zumpkin, I do have a guide to progression, which is like a progression 101 guide. If you do exclamation point, well, here I can do it in chat. Gar_guides. There's a link to all my guides on the subreddit. There is a progression guide, which basically is just going to be an introduction to the different pillars of progression. I'm not sure if Modron is in there yet. I can't remember if I updated it with Modrons, but Modrons are one of those pillars now. So different ways you can get it. As far as the efficient way to progress, that's something we're kind of trying to figure out as a community. A lot of people have different ideas, but right now I'm doing... I worked with Mars, Storyteller Mars, to create the Gaarawarr Challenge, which is basically a bunch of more experienced players going back on a brand new account and playing the game over for the beginning with the intent of trying to find the most efficient ways to progress. And we do that via a milestone system. So our first milestone was unlocking Dritzt, which was in the Sword Coast, and then we transferred over to unlocking Azaka in Tomb of Annihilation. And then it turned out we were basically on the cusp of being able to unlock Dragonbait. So then the next milestone was unlocking Dragonbait. And again, we unlocked all three of those champions, maxed out all of our blessings in Tomb of Annihilation, got the first tier of blessings in the Sword Coast, and now we're moving on to unlock Aquaria. We did all of that in less than 2 months. So currently we figured out, I feel like it's a pretty efficient way to progress through the game. But we don't know all of the most efficient ways because we're doing that kind of live. So if you want to check that out, we do that every week on my channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr. Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific? 10 a.m. Pacific? One of those times. 10 a.m. Pacific, I think. And when you're done with this variant, I'm curious what DPS you will use for the Gargoyle variant in Strahd. Yeah, Bruce, we'll hop in. We'll do that. We're only what, 35, 33 levels now away. So we'll be able to hop over and do the Gargoyle as well. And you can see that formation as well. Gar, turning a bit late. Did you mention the variant where it's only Minsk and adjacent spots? No, I did not, because yeah, I forget the title of that one too. But that one maybe we can look at another time. If someone can remember the, well, yeah, we'd have to hop in and dive into that, and it's locked for me, so I'd have to get it unlocked again. I don't know that it was a click damage requirement so much as just making sure you had a solid roster and surrounded Minsk the right way. But I'd have to look into that one again. Rosie has plus int 2. She might have a Keen Mind feat, but that isn't necessarily going to qualify her for Strahd. Oh, let's see. Ooh, she does. How did that not make it on my list? Thank you. Is that going to bring her up for this one? No. It is going to qualify her for Strahd, so I'm adding her to my list. I'm not sure how she didn't make it in the first place. So yeah, that brings her up to 13. So Rosie is available for Strahd. She doesn't qualify for this because, unfortunately, her wisdom is 14. Can we get a wisdom minus feat, folks? Rosie gets a lot of flack in the community. Kind of gets overlooked a lot. She likes to be in a group with lots of young champions, and specifically, she gets a bonus if they're all. You can choose a spec bonus if they're all like female, like lots of females. Her biggest feature that she offers is deflect missiles, because in this game, it doesn't just deflect like arrows; it's all ranged and magic attacks. So she has just a fantastic niche of making it easy for you to. Oops, we died. Making it easy for you to slot her in when you're dealing with lots of ranged attacks. This is very useful in, and we'll bring this up, I guess, right now. Oh, I'm going to have to go look at the name. I had it. It was on my tongue for a second. Tomb of Annihilation. I want to say Feigned Weakness. Is that the one? Oh, where is it? Did I just miss it? I thought, I'm losing it, folks. Wherever Feigned Weakness is it in a different campaign? I thought it was Tomb of Annihilation. Anyway, Feigned Weakness, you can't have really strong characters, and she's pretty weak. And in one of the variants, you don't get any tanks. So, oh, you know what? No, it's Feigned Weakness is here in Waterdeep, isn't it? Because isn't this the formation it's in? Yes, there it is. Aha! I am losing it. Strength of 13 or lower. So Rosie qualifies for that, but tanks don't, because tanks are strong. I think we actually might have a tank available in Lazaps now. I'd have to go check. She may be low strength. But if you don't have Lazaps, Rosie swaps and you have Rosie. Rosie can hop into this position where Avern is and deflect missiles across everyone here. And you're fighting the Xanathar, and the Xanathar is ranged magic. So you can pop her ultimate when the Xanathar comes out and deflect all the missiles and kill the Xanathar, and it works out pretty well. Now, we did stop here right at 450, and that's because this is a big boy who just slams this thing down on your head and pulverizes you. This is the thing you have to keep in mind for this one. We don't have any tanks, so we have to build health via potions only. Well, potions, blessings, perks, anything that can get you health, you're going to need. There. I used right there, what was it, an hour? Why did it not appear? I used an hour-long health potion, but there's also a health bonus coming from my Modron core, and there's also, if I remember correctly, a health bonus, yes, right here, coming from Vajra. So all of those together, and along with one potion, you may need more potions if you have less health, are going to help get you through the very end boss of Wait What. Everything else was fire breath potions, right? And just this formation, which is fast attacks with Birdsong. So hey, we did it, folks. I'm seeing, yeah, Lazaps is 8 strength. Yeah, so Lazaps is now available for Feigned Weakness. I did Feigned Weakness before Lazaps came out, and I used Rosie. Basically, it was the best possible use of Rosie ever, in my opinion. She doesn't get used a lot outside of very specific variants. So let's hop into, we already talked about the Gargoyle a bit. Let's hop in, and I'm just going to load up my save formation in here somewhere, or attempt to. Hey, we're live. Okay. I did not put familiars in my save formation. That's bad. Oh, I don't remember. We're going to go Master of Piracy for gold because he's not our DPS. We're going to do Dark Blessing. I believe my formation disappeared, so I don't remember. I think we're going to do War Domain. We can switch this around if necessary. Probably Wild Shape. Probably Empowered Blessings. Again. All right. I'm going to have to stop because I can't see anyone. So I can't tell what I have to pick. All right, where are we going? I'm going to look down here on the bottom in my preview. It looks like I'm using Gym DPS here. All right, so if I'm using Gym DPS, we're going to go Jim's Fan Club. Oh, and Jim is, let me make sure. Yeah, Human Wizard. That's what I thought. So we're going to go Humans. We may need to optimize that. If we have a lot of other things, I mean, we can change some stuff around. I generally default to Hardy Constitution. However, what is Jim? Jim's Chaotic. We've probably got a lot of Chaotic people. Well, we got some Lawful. 3, 4 Lawful, 5 Lawful. Oh, we may run Lawful. Yeah, well, we'll try it. Let's try Lawful out. Again, we've got some potions of specialization. That's helpful because we can switch it up anytime we want. What do we want to do here? You know, I'm just going to go exotic races just because. We can always change this later. So we have chaotic, neutral, and Gym. So we need to make sure that we rock Avern in neutral. Let's just hold this down so we speed this up. And sturdy mirrors, and then he can do that himself. And let's throw all the speed on again. So let's discuss this formation a little bit. Again, we're just trying to use... We have a lot more options here, surprisingly. Champions with a magic base attack, and a handful of others, which is how Jarlaxle sneaks in, and Mooserl. And then, of course, the general int restriction. I'm seeing a hero's entourage is the name of the Minsk one. Yes. So we may have to dive into that one day. We get a lot in slot 1. There are a lot of options here. I went with Turiel specifically because, like, the other option I was leaning towards was Esmeralda, but I don't have a lot of space in my front row. This is really less than optimal because we don't have Celeste next to Jim, but again, we'll make some changes later. We have a lot of options here, so we've got some room to make adjustments if we need to at our wall. The reason I went with Turiel, though, was because I could flesh out the entire formation with lots of support characters and Jarlaxle. But I would have only had, I believe, Tyrell as my tank. So there aren't any other options here for Celeste and Celeste's slot. Nothing in the third slot. We have Dadius as an option with Keelek, but I went, because we were looking at just one tank, even though it's Mooserl, I went Healer and Buffer. Oh, I remember what we're doing. We are not... I threw myself off. We are not doing a Gym DPS. We are doing an Ashara DPS. So let's go switch that up. Nope. I knew I did something different on this one. So we want Potpourri. I don't remember which one we want for that. So this was a test of an Ashara DPS formation. We'll see if it works out. Lawful neutral, so I don't have to change Avern over. Normally, my DPS is right next to Avern, but in this situation, we had to bounce things around a little bit. So I went Turiel to just kind of push everybody on and have it like a second tank. Turiel isn't an actual tank. Turiel deflects enemies onto your other tanks. So this is a one-tank formation with Turiel. And then everyone else is here to buff and support Ashara, so that's why this is what clued me off to that, is Keelek likes to be right next to whoever they're buffing, as does Celeste, so that's why I was like, wait, Jim, Jim can't be there. So we actually want to change Jim's spec over to magic, magic, magic. And that's going to be better for us. Let's throw down some fire breath potions so we can rock this a little quicker. And I don't need that anymore. So the idea here is just basically buff one of your DPS as much as possible. Because I have a full bench, I have every champion in the game. Obviously, I can flesh out a full formation. If you cannot, that's one of the things you need to work on, right? Figure out where champions are that you can slot something that you're missing. I could have used Dadius. Dadius would have been a good support, but I had both he and Keelik, so I went with Keelik to start. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? The nice thing about Dadius is while Keelik has to be right next to your DPS, or wants to be right next to your DPS, Dadius can be anywhere within 2 as the crow flies. So instead of 2 adjacent, like say being 2 away from Jarlaxle would be like Jim and Keelik, Dadius can jump across a gap. So he could be right here where Grim is, and his buff would still reach all of these other people on the side of this gap in the middle, because he can buff across gaps. Okay, so we've got a Shar in, we've got Jim. Farida was another choice, but Farida is pure DPS. Jim can at least offer some support. We've got Delina. Delina's pure DPS, so we don't necessarily want to go there. Aquaria was another option. Obviously, here we are in the Gargoyle, right? This is her mission. Lots of magic users here, like all magic users. The problem with this is if we put Aquaria in, we then lose our tank. And right now we only have the 1 tank. Strix is another option instead of Averin. And then we have, again, no options really in the final slot. So this is going to be our first test. We'll see how it goes. It should be fine. Again, the biggest thing here is we're going to run into some armor, segmented health stuff. But we should be able to make it through okay. All right. Are we back now? Yeah. No, I meant to mute when I switched screens. And did I mute and then unmute? Yeah, well. All right. So now we're going to dive into the general Q&A. Oh, for some reason it just muted completely? Like a minute ago. What was the last thing I talked about? I think I was just saying that we're going to go to the Q&A. So I don't think I missed anything. Basically, I was looking for any more Strahd questions in our Q&A list, but I don't believe we had anything. I was answering a question? No. Yeah. Okay. Well, if I was answering a question and I didn't answer your question or I didn't finish it, let me know. But I think we're good. Okay. So we're jumping back into the Q&A. Jay has been grabbing all the questions from the chat, so if I didn't answer your question earlier, we're going to get to it now. Hey! What's the best use of Ruby coins as a beginner? So Ruby coins are the currency for Mert the Moneylender. When you first start, I kind of recommend, like, Mert is your first patron you unlock. So you probably haven't fully epicked out all your core and evergreens yet. And you probably don't have a ton of event champions. You could have, I mean, you're going to have a good amount. You'll have, I think he requires like 20. So I don't necessarily think you should start grabbing patron chests right away. Because they're not as efficient a spend, because they are 5,000 of the currency, ruby coins. They're not as efficient a spend early on, because the gear could go to your core and evergreen champions. And that's an expensive purchase for gear, when you could get those same core and evergreen gear pieces from your gem chests. Like, just go buy those. So I think right away you're probably just going to want to make sure you're picking up your time gate piece every week. You get one a week, which, did I not buy any of my stuff this week? I didn't. Okay. So once you buy one, and then it goes to 0 and it grays out. If you have unlocked, I don't recommend ever buying one of these. Sometimes if it's necessary, you could buy these other potions, but if you haven't unlocked Modron component chests yet, then just buy your time gate piece every week and bank your coins. Once you've unlocked Modrons, then you'll probably want to buy one of these every week as well. That's going to be 7,500 of your currency right away. And you're going to want to just try to start saving up the rest to pick up. Like, you could skip this athlete feat. You know, picking up a potion of polish when you can afford it is good. You know, and buy strength out of here, or, you know, a utility familiar. But these are kind of the one-off purchases at the bottom are these kind of goals for saving up your currency for, in my opinion. Whereas patron chests are going to be something once you've got full epics on your core and evergreen champions. When you buy and open a patron chest, the gear that's going to come out of it, like the epics specifically, you'll still get duplicates for core and evergreens potentially, but the epics will then only go to your event champions. Much more efficient use of your patron currency to do that, and that goes for all the patrons. That's how I ended up with full epics. It was something I was working on for 3 years. And until we started getting patron chests, it was incredibly difficult because you could only get gear in events and time gates. But once I could just specifically dial in certain champions, and like I could create a list that had the different champions and which ones still needed epics, and then I could just buy chests to shrink those lists by basically, if I have Mert, let me do this. No, I still can't use two hands. If I have like Mert here, Vajra here, and Strahd here, and some of the champions overlap and others don't, I can remove those overlaps by targeting specific, like if all of them are over here, but only some of them are in, like if all of them are in Mert, but only, well, it's the way it is most are in Vajra and some are in Mert and Strahd. The most limited pool is usually Strahd, so you can do Strahd stuff to pull out a very limited group of people, and then move to Mert to pull out the rest of the limited group, and then what's left over in Vajra, you can then easily do. You'll have to figure out your own list yourself, but that's how I ended up nuking like all of my epics, getting them all, and getting fully epic and staying that way. We just did Esmeralda on stream yesterday. I opened up all my Esmeralda chests and got super lucky. Streamer luck was in full effect yesterday, folks. I got like 5 epics out of 24 gold chests from the event. And then I went over and I bought a Strahd chest because she qualifies for Strahd, and I was like, you know what? It would make sense that Esmeralda would take what she could get from Strahd, like, and steal things from him. So I bought one Strahd chest, opened it, she got her last epic. But I was going to gear her out with Strahd chests. So that's kind of that's the way I recommend using your currency efficiently. I don't think you need to buy a lot of potions in general, and I don't think you need to start buying patron chests right away. I think you buy your time gate piece, you bank the rest, and then once you unlock Modrons, you buy your time gate and your Modron every week. And then as you can afford it, if you want to dump the power into some of these one-time purchases, you can. And once you get epic, full epics, then you can start spending on patron chests. But you know, before that, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense. Let me make sure I get my. Wow, I don't know what I was doing this week that I totally forgot. There we go. Literally started playing this game a few hours ago. It's a fun one. Any tips? Well, first off, welcome. And you're kind of doing the first, Zeroel, you're kind of doing the first tip is make sure you're watching some of the streams that are going on. There's multiple streams a week where you can ask questions and get answers. Mine, I have two of them, Fridays and Saturdays. Mars is on Wednesdays and Wednesday afternoons. Wednesday morning, there's a show specific called Evergreen Champions with Margaret and Satine, and they talk about a lot of new player stuff there as well. So when you see those pop-ups come up in game for those shows, Mars' Guiding Hand, Evergreen Champions, Gaarawarr's Guide, hit them up, ask questions, you'll get lots of help. Also, hit up the Discord. Someone throw exclamation point Discord in the chat. And the subreddit. I'm not sure if there's a Reddit command. But there's lots of good information in both of those. Lots of guides to the game. This is a well-supported community in terms of guides, not just by me, but by other champions like Mars and Silisa and a lot more now. A lot of people have been throwing up guides in the community, so make sure you check those out. What are the speed items in this game? Specific champions can have items that affect their speed boost, but potions of speed are really the speed items. But you'll get like Melf and Sentry have items related specifically to their speed. Sentry's is her Flowering Hair Vines, because this basically maxes out her ability to reduce the number of, like, reduce your quest requirements up here. Whereas normally it says 25. When it's maxed out, it'll say 17 always. So, you know, you get a basically 30% reduction in anything, quests for kills or collecting things. Melf's is specifically Melf Speedy Supplement. So that's an item. Briv has one for... we just had the Theor Dinarax, his Unnatural Haste ability. So it's specifically related to speed champions. And some speed champions, not all, will have item support. Better question is, what are the best speed character items in the game? Well, those were basically what we just went over. It's not unlike some games where I've heard they were talking about this on the stream yesterday. In other games, like speed items, like were the things you wanted to get for all your champions because it made them do things faster. We have speed champions, and some of those champions have item support. It's a whole different kind of thing. Just started playing yesterday. Welcome, worsening. Should I be opening silver gold chests or saving until I unlock more characters? Open them right away as a brand new player. Open up all your chests. All of those basic silver and gold chests like we're seeing right here. Open them up as you get them. Because the gear you're going to get out of those is going to be real strong for you. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, right away. Should I get this on Steam even if I'm playing a lot of it on a website? That's kind of up to you. This is Steam that I'm playing on right now. I also have a WebGL account, well, two WebGL accounts, but my main WebGL account that we were looking at earlier is through the Codename site, like directly through them. It's up to you which one, you want to go through. There's no cross-platform play. You can't really share your progress or anything, so you would be starting over if you went to a different platform. Steam tends to get updates first. WebGL's probably next, and then all the other platforms like consoles and tablets, mobile, all that tends to get stuff last. Oh, except for Switch. Switch tends to be the slowest, but that has to do with Switch. What's the difference between a golden epic compared to a shiny item? I use the term silver epic, but basically shiny versus golden is the question. So as we can see down here, this is what a shiny looks like. It's that silver interior kind of border. Epic, like your rarity color is the outside, so that's the purple on the outside. But the silver on the inside, because normally it's like this bronze color for just normal cards. But the shiny is here, so it says shiny level 84. Shiny, when you shiny a card, it gives you a 50% bonus to the power of the card. So it takes the rarity into account. The rarity always stays. Like, everything is always applied here. The item levels, everything is here. But then it gives you a 50% multiplier, basically adding on to the end of your multiplication list. So it takes that those 84 levels and effectively gives you like another 50% worth of power levels. So the more levels you have on an item that's affected by a guild like shiny or golden, the more power, the more of a boost you're going to get. So this one would normally be, let's see, it's at 550. So if it's adding 50%, where would it normally be? Like 375? I don't know, somewhere in there. 350, 375 would probably be normal, and then that's giving you another, what, 175? That would be fine. Yeah, close. So like 380, 390. So normally we would be below 400 in terms of the attack damage buff at the bottom of the card. But because of the shiny, it's gone way up. Golden, with a nice golden interior border, doubles it. So this says 657.8. So normally that would be what, 328.9 or something, right? Like, you're getting, if I did my math correctly on the fly, you're getting twice as much of the power out of those item levels and rarity that you would normally get. So that's how that works. Shinies can be looted in game out of opening any kind of chest with gear in it. Not out of Modrons, because those have pipes, and not out of supply chests, because those just have consumables. But any chest that has gear has a 1 in 1,000 chance to drop a shiny. There's no pity timer involved at all, so it's just pure luck. Goldens, shinies can also be done out of the store. Like sometimes things you'll buy or give you potions of polish, and those can create a shiny. And then potions of polish are sold. Each patron sells one. But potions of polish go to any champion, whereas when you get a shiny out of, say, like a regular silver chest, they're only going to go to your Corn Evergreen champions. So the shiny will drop based off the type of chest, like the champions that qualify for that chest. Golden, in general, comes from paid purchases in the shop. So if we hop over to the shop, you'll see that there are some golden options here. Right, this is how you get golden in most cases. There are now 3 in the game that you can buy from patrons. Each of them has one for an Evergreen champion. So like Strahd has Dragonbait Shield. Potions of Polish can also be achieved by having already had an item shiny. And then the golden version of it comes up somehow, and you achieve the golden version. When the golden version overwrites the shiny, it kicks out a Potion of Polish for you. Let's see. How long has Avern been a top support champ in the game? Since he was introduced. So almost a year now. Or yeah, a full year, because we're in his event right now. So a year ago. He was immediately followed by Krull, so the overpoweredness of Avern quickly became overshadowed by the overpoweredness of Krull, and so they've kind of both stayed in their overpowered state since they were released. Doesn't always happen that way. Like I said earlier, Birdsong was meta for a while, and then that changed. Farito was meta for a while, that changed. Now Zorbu is kind of the DPS that's the meta. For a while, Barrowan was meta, then she got adjusted. You know, there are times where things get changed. We just haven't seen it for like Avern, and I don't know that Avern's as big of an issue because he does require you building your formation out correctly, and there is a bit of RNG to how his mirrors happen, but Krull, on the other hand. What's the best use of leftover event tokens for Liar's Night? Buying chests? No, run free plays. I have to do that later. Basically, running a free play for the champion of your choice. Once you complete level 50, so you get to 51, you complete that run, and for 2,500 tokens, you get a random chest. So tokens in the store are normally 10,000, or chests in the store are 10,000 for 1 gold. But for those same 10,000 event tokens, you have a chance to get 4 chests. They could all be gold, or 3 of them could be silver, and 1 could be gold, but you're guaranteed at least 1 gold out of those 10,000. You might as well do the efficient thing and do the free plays. Now, if it comes to the end of the event and you just don't have enough time to do all the free plays, like maybe you were busy this weekend, that's pretty much the only time you would ever spend tokens directly on chests. New player here, auto convert Lyra's favor to Torm's favor. The convert button is great. You don't do it yet, Cicerone. Conversion happens after an event ends. Where are we? Here we are. So it says right here, time until you can convert. It's a little overlapped. They need to fix this issue. We have too many campaigns now. That's just the problem. This needs to move like down or something, or this needs to move over. The time until you convert is like 2 days, 2 hours, 33 minutes. So at noon on Monday, you can convert then, and you can convert to the campaign of your choice that you've unlocked and earned favor in. Which reminds me, I need to do... This is what I need my tokens for. I've got to do a deep run because I only have E28 favor, and that should be in the E40s, especially with Jarlaxle having a Master of Piracy buff this weekend. Let's see. Wouldn't you want to put Hitch one slot down for Jarlaxle's Master of Disguise? Oh, that's for the other formation. Potentially. If I'd run into a problem where I needed to move people around to get more damage out of that variant run, I could have. But again, I build a formation. In general, I just throw a formation together at level 1 based off some generic things that I know in terms of how they work. I don't necessarily maximize every last buff that I'm getting until I hit a wall, and then I start fiddling with things. That's just the way I prefer to do it. If you want to try to maximize every buff from level 1 in terms of like how you're placing everything, by all means go right ahead. But I just tend to adjust things later on after I've gotten to soft cap when I know everything's maxed out, so I can truly see. And at my wall, because I like it at my wall because I can truly see how things are changing my bud. Because this is what matters. This number down here that we see fluctuating, where it says hit for damage. I want to know. I want to get the biggest hit. Like the bud is always going to be fluctuating, but I want to see what that hit number is. That currently says 225 E190. When I make changes, I want to see how it's affecting that. None of the things that show up here, base or running average, really matter. What matters is bud. So the hit that's registering your bud. That's how I make adjustments, and that you can't really do that very well at level 1. I have all the prerequisites for my first patron except the time gate pieces. Any way to get them, or do I just wait? You just wait. You get a new time gate piece every 5 to 6 days. It's on a timer. Like once you loot one, you can't get another one until the timer runs out. So just gotta wait. Occasionally, I say that, but occasionally you'll get a wild offer that might include them. But, yeah, waiting. Gromma int feet. Yeah, we already talked about Gromma int feet. Gromma does have her int feet in. She's at 13, but she just doesn't qualify for this. What happens with unused event tokens like Liar's Tart when the event ends? They all disappear. That's why you want to use them. Yeah, they all disappear. They don't hold over until the next event. They're just gone. Is there a generic item level recommendation done anywhere? As in your current flow is around 80, floor is around 80, something we can shoot for Strahd. Obviously 80 works for Strahd, as we've seen today. Do I know what the minimum is? No, because I don't know that I didn't bump my item levels up based on trying to complete Strahd stuff. So I don't know. That's a very difficult thing to say. In terms of item level of recommendations, I know I saw in the Discord the other day somebody created a, or maybe it was on Reddit. I think I got linked into the Discord. Someone created tried to formularize like how you should balance your item levels based off each champion and how many kind of items they effectively have in terms of how each item buffs things, which is neat, but I don't know. If you want to truly go into optimization that way, you can check that out and see how that works for you. I just like to have a floor where each champion has the same amount of item levels. That's just the way I do it. So, what is a good item level for event champions? I mean, you're going to have whatever you're going to have. Like I said, I like to keep the item levels roughly equal for everyone. That's just my recommendation. Again, you can check out, look, if you want to try to get into like truly optimizing your item levels, definitely go look at, that's really kind of a deep dive into the math, and you're going to have to check the math and make sure that they're applying everything correctly. I haven't done that because it's just not
that's not my specific thing, like optimizing in that way. But yeah, check out the Discord and ask. I'm sure somebody will be able to link that to you. It would be nice to see where DPS comes from in one window, like base DPS, gear, patron, achievements, etc. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I think right now we have like the outgoing effects and incoming effects. I know more things have been added to incoming effects. Like you can see now, this is coming from the Moneylender. This is coming from Helm's Favor. This is coming from Strahd. And then the specific champions. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if it listed off more stuff like the global buffs, or because these are specific buffs, if I remember correctly. Comfortable in the city is specifically for Waterdeep. So it'd be nice if this also listed off the global incoming, as well as like what's coming from your Modron core, if that applies. And it might actually. Hold on, let me see what we've got. Does she qualify for anything? I haven't looked to see if it shows Modron stuff. But yeah, I mean, that would be nice. It's added on to the quality of life adjustments we would like to see. Right now, like, I mean, there are lots of things that we've asked for. Like, I would like to see it show like a total. Like, what is my current total for slow and steady? It increases damage of all champions by 2% for every piece of epic equipment. Literally across all champions. But what is my total at right now? I don't know. Yeah, there's lots of quality of life upgrades. It would be nice, but we just don't have them yet. Is there a synergy to ultimate attacks where using them in a certain order maximizes your damage? Not anymore so much. Some might still. They've been trying to clean that up. So it used to be that the debuff ones, you could apply debuffs for, and then the ultimates would work on debuffs, and they fixed that. They didn't want any more double dipping with ultimates. But you still have things like this, like Beacon of Light. So this is going to be situational. Beacon of Light pushes enemy backs and increases your party damage. So this means it's going to buff your party damage, and your party damage sets your bud. So firing off Beacon of Light first, and then hitting other, and then waiting for the bud to get attack that raises your bud, and then firing off others will raise ultimately the damage of all of these ultimates. You're going to have to look at it in that situational manner, right? Yeah. But it no longer should you be able to apply any ultimates that debuff and then stack. Esmeralda's new in that you want to apply lots and lots and lots of debuffs to an enemy. So in that, and then fire her ultimate. So her ultimate wants to be after all debuffs. After all the debuffs from champions are applied, and then if there are any ultimate debuffs that you want to apply as well, then fire off hers at the end. So there are a couple that want a specific order, but it's very situational. You kind of have to read through the different ultimates and get them that way. Let's see. Is it better or more efficient to do all the base variants before moving to patrons, or should we use them as a lever for more power as we go? I mean, this is... There's arguments for both. Right now on the Gaarawarr challenge, we don't do variants really at all. It was kind of my experiment to see, like, what's the most efficient way you can push through campaigns. And currently, it really feels like, with the fact that we've unlocked Dragonbait in less than 2 months, the most efficient way is just to push through doing the story and ignore variants unless you are actually required to do variants for specific things. So like there are certain times where it stops you and says you have to have completed a certain number of adventures or variants to move forward. In which case we just grab a couple easy ones and then we move on. That's kind of the way I feel like your initial push through campaigns could be. And it will be very efficient because you're grabbing the primary lever for power that people use early on, which is favor. You can grab a lot of that just by pushing deep in each adventure. You don't necessarily have to run free plays. And using those milestones of your evergreen champions, then you get, once you get to Azaka, you've got favor on tap if you need it. But that also gets you, by getting lots of favor just by doing those adventures, you're also maxing out your blessings. When it comes to patrons, though, once you start unlocking patrons, which we haven't done in that challenge yet, I feel like you want to make sure you have, like, my current goal is to get my adventuring parties unlocked so that I can be continuing to do those base adventures in my main party, and then start running variants in my background party, so that I can, whether they're regular variants or patron variants. I mean, it's slow progress in the background party, but I'm still, because I want to leverage that first lever, those first two levers of favor and blessings. That's kind of the way, that's kind of my current plan. Until we play it that way and we have lots of different, like, because we have a bunch of different people playing it in different ways. I don't know which is going to be necessarily the most efficient. So yeah, I mean, I think early on, most people do just enough patron stuff to buy things with, and are playing through a lot of the base variants. But because the first thing and the cheapest thing you can buy starting off is local blessings. So without doing a heavy investment in time into patrons, you're not going to get a lot of those global blessings, or the global perks, excuse me. So local perks and global perks. So it may be worth it just to dive in and grab like the first global, which is a double damage, because it's pretty straightforward. But once after that, they become less straightforward. The first one that you always want to dive for, though, is, Mert, challenge accepted. Like, this is the first patron goal you should have in terms of global stuff. So whatever you need to do once you unlock Mert, and to get his perks, challenge accepted. Once, if you're getting heavily into patrons, this is kind of the first major goal for patrons, because it increases your patron currency award. Frustrating that I have played since year 1 and still don't have the int feat for Zorbu. Well, I mean, feats were only added, feats weren't added 3 years ago. So, it takes a while. It's basically all about farming gold chests, right? And farming gold chests means farming Mad Wizard. So doing tons and tons and tons of Mad Wizard gem runs and buying tons and tons of gold chests. A lot of people tend to buy lots of silver chests with their gems because they want item levels and shinies. I invested heavily into gold chests first and let my shinies just accrue naturally. And that got me all the feats. And now I'm one shiny away from, full shiny on my core and evergreen. So I don't know. I think that was probably more efficient use of my gems. So yeah, I think you target your feats first and you get all the major feats you need out of gold chests. And then, so if you don't have that and that's what you need, lots and lots and lots of Mad Wizard farming. That's all I can recommend. Looks like you have a shard DPS with your save formation. Yeah, I figured that out, Bruce. Thanks. How's my game so sped up? Omadoru Konam? It's speed potions. Oh, and they just fell off. One of them fell off, so let's go add. This one's taking a little longer. There we go. Medium. Let's add another 15 minutes because we're coming up on 20 minutes left in the show, so hopefully we make it through. Hopefully we make it through, folks. I don't need all of these familiars down here. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is what soft cap looks like. When people talk about soft cap, all of these champions that have this circle with a line through it, they have no more upgrades that give them major boosts like this, like increase the damage by 200%. It no longer works that way. Every point I put in above this is just going to give me like 1% of a bonus to my damage. It's not huge. I mean, it's a little bit. It's not outrageous. To get that, I need to switch out of upgrade into something higher. Since I have a Shara DPS, I'm just going to start dumping all of my extra levels into her. And I'll put a familiar there. And that'll just maximize the DPS I get. But again, it's going to be small incremental increases. It's not going to get me a whole lot. Okay, let's see. We're down here. Okay. If I have Zorbu but not his +1 int feat, can his gear and or feat drop from Strahd chest? No. No, but that does bring something up. The gear from the patron chests only works for champions that qualify for those patron chests. So, if they're showing up here on your bar while you're doing that patron, then gear will drop for them. But if they're showing up via feat and then you swap that feat out, gear won't drop for them. And that's actually a good way to reduce the number of champions that gear could drop on. Like Celeste is a core evergreen champion. We don't want gear to drop for her from patron chests. We want it to drop for everybody else. So because she qualifies for Strahd via a feat, before I open Strahd chests, I would take out Keen Mind. That reduces my potential pool, my potential drop pool. How much better Makos Dark Lust against DPS push to gain favor for new players? Oh, so Forever Bronze, you're talking about Makos farming, using his Dark Lust luck spec. In that situation, ideally, you wouldn't have Makos in your formation normally. You would be using someone else as a buffer. And then you would only bring Makos in with Dark Luck once you've built up a large number of mobs and want to blow them up with his ultimate and get lots of gold off that. So how much of a difference it makes to have him in versus his Dark Blessing is going to depend on whether you normally need him in your formation or not. If you're at a point in your game where you don't have a swap for him, or he is the best option in his Dark Blessing spec, then just leave him in and push and get favor that way. Again, I think it's totally viable for you to just push through adventures. Again, treat normal adventures as favor runs in the sense that you're always pushing to your wall and getting favor on every normal adventure. And then just when you hit if you do any variants, when you hit the completion zone, just, piece right out. You don't push variants for gold, but that should let you just push totally fine through and have lots of favor. And then just make Azaka, your target. Because once you get Azaka, Makos doesn't mean anything. Azaka makes it rain. Azaka does gold more than Makos by a large volume. Have you beaten visions of Strahd's visions of himself? Yes, I have. I currently get stuck on area 300. So Strahd's visions of Strahd is in the Sword Coast in Barovia. And it's right here. This is, I didn't go into this one. Because I guess I don't feel like it's as challenging anymore. But only the first 9 original champions are allowed. This gets a little challenging. Yeah. If I remember correctly, that one's got a fidgety way to get through it that I don't think is... The reason I didn't talk about it, I don't think it's really something we should talk about on stream. You kind of have to use a bug to get by things. So I would say... I don't know. It's real tough. That one's one of those where I think that it's not necessarily doable without the bug. Yeah. Should I unlock Mert as soon as I can? I wouldn't say as soon as you can. On my other account, like on my new player account, technically I qualify for him right now, but I don't want to spend my time gate pieces on him necessarily because, again, I haven't done lots of variants, and you need enough variants to then be able to then do them with Mert, and he's going to have a higher goal requirement. So if you don't have the power, you've unlocked him but can't complete anything. So yeah, you kind of have to be a very good judge of how powerful you are. Now I've worked my way all the way through Tomb of Annihilation. I've maxed out on all the blessings there. And I've done a good amount of variants. So it may be that I can do enough variants in Tomb of Annihilation to get enough influence to buy my time gate piece from Mert, in which case that's viable, but then I have to spend time each week getting currency for him so that I can buy those. So he becomes a bit of a time sink. So you need to determine, do you have the time to do, a handful of things every week for him to get free plays, or you're going to be doing variants, like his variants, to get more influence, but also get the currency. You got to do something to get currency every week for him to be able to buy your time gate piece. I don't know if I'm at the point that I want to do that yet. Again, for me, I feel like my Modron core is more of a priority, but I am 2 champs away, so I may change my mind on that. So just kind of figure out where you are, and I just think I think you're creating an additional time sink for yourself every week. So figure out if you have that time or not. Are there any champions which don't qualify for any patron? Not currently. Before Strahd came out, there were, but not anymore. Is there any functional difference between global damage, increased perks, Shown as increased by 100%, and the global blessing increasing damage by ×2. No, that's the same thing. 100% and a 2x multiplier is the same thing. I've been playing for a month and just unlocked Mert. I probably don't need to be hoarding my chests and bounty contracts for unlocking Strahd at this point. Huh? Not at all. Not at all. Get that power and use it. I currently have all the champions and only one Evergreen does not have all their epics. Nice. Well done. Currently working on completing all the blessings. Tiamat is the last one unless there are blessings in Icewind Dale. There are blessings in Icewind Dale. So start unlocking patrons or wait until I have all the blessings? Oh, you can unlock patrons now. If you've got global blessings in so many places. I mean, again, look at how many blessings you have. But if you've got a lot of the blessings, and if you've done a lot of the variants, again, you have to have done a lot of the variants for patrons to matter because patrons function off variants. Then you can start trying to dive into patrons. Patrons need power because the more power, patrons are a time sink. They're more of a time sink, the less power you have. So the more power you have, the easier they are to do. So right now I can do all of my patron stuff every week. Like I can do all of these challenges. This is the main, this is one of your main sources of income. Doing all of these challenges and run my free plays really easily for 5,000 tokens every week. All three of them take me now with multi-party, so I can run some in the background, like a day and a half. It used to take me a day each, but that's at full power. There are some people to do all of that. If they were to do all of that each week, it would take them all week. So you kind of have to make decisions early on what's going to be the best use of your time. We got about 13 minutes left. We're coming up. We're so close, folks. We need 550. Are we going to do it? I don't even know. I don't even know. I feel like we've got a shot because we're burning through stuff with Fire Breath pretty well. Our bud's up in the E180s. I can't tell. They're not alive long enough for me to tell what their health is. Oh, we're in the E160s with health, if I read that right. So Fire Breath should be able to burn. This is where we run into challenges. But again, we've got Ashara as our DPS, and she multi-attacks. So I think we've got a good shot at this. The Mert variant challenge to get highest damage. Does that mean over the campaign or in one hit? Oh, so that's over here. Reset in here with Rosie as your highest total damage dealing. So the keywords here are total damage dealing. So that means in that, not in a campaign, but in that adventure, she has done the highest total damage. So it isn't just one hit. It's not about who sets your bud. It's about over time who has been doing like the most cumulative damage. So whatever this is, whatever champion this is, or whatever type of champion this is, you want to have them as your primary DPS from the beginning. You want to build your formation around them. Make sure they're the ones setting bud, and then just run them to 251 and reset. Because otherwise, you could end up, like if you just try to put them in at 250, you may then have to farm a very long time for them to get the cumulative damage to surpass whoever you had as your DPS before. Can you imagine using Esmeralda without the spec that makes it affect all enemies? Yeah. Then she'd be Melf, right? Melf has a debuff that he places on certain enemies that lets ultimates like do more damage. It's the same thing, right? It would be, he doesn't do it on everyone. He just does it on certains. You'd have to play on boss levels. You'd have to just play the RNG, and if it doesn't land on the boss, you'd back up and move forward. That's basically her right spec. If you want to use her right spec and maximize the bonus from that stuff instead of just making it apply to everyone, you play RNG with it. If they don't come out and get flagged with it, you just back up and do that level over again until they do. What's the average gain of an Azaka farm? Oh, that's not a thing. It varies. It varies by person because there are way too many factors involved. Like how many gold find champions do you have? What kind of gold find bonus are you getting off each of them? How many potions did you stack? How many stacks are on your mimic? Did you even get a mimic, or is it a regular monster? Like, yeah, way too much. Way too many things. But it's orders of E, right? It's not like you're going to get, like I get anywhere from like an EO3 to an EO7 bonus. just depending. Oh man, are we gonna die or are we gonna kill it? We didn't use any ultimates here, folks. We're just we're autoing. Are we gonna beat it? Hey, we did it, folks. If I was on my channel, I'd say stars in chat. I'll still stay here, but I don't know if we've got any subs over here. Yeah. So yeah, Azaka Farms, it's going to vary person to person. It should be a lot if you're doing it right. It should be a lot. Is this what playing the game for 3 years straight looks like? Pretty much, yeah. I've played for 3 years straight. I've never really taken a break. I mean, it's always been constantly on in the background. I shut my computer off every night, which is why my hours played aren't as many as everybody else. But yeah. I will say though, as I'm proving on my new player account, which is now only a couple months old, you so far haven't run into any roadblocks at all in terms of progressing through the game, flown through stuff, unlocked things without a lot of challenge or effort. It feels like, again, I'm taking the knowledge of 3 years of gameplay and applying it to a new account. That's the difference. But you know, you come to these streams, you head to the Discord, you read on Reddit. There are lots of us in the community who are willingly sharing that knowledge with you. So, you know, take our 3 years of experience, or 2 years, or 1 year, apply it to your new account, and profit. How to get higher favor than E28, E29 struggle to reach this milestone with an Azaka or 2 on most campaigns. If you're getting to that point, then it's more about, you're probably sitting at the same level, like your wall, because you've already at E28 to E29, you're soft capping probably on all your champions, which means your power to push deeper isn't coming from favor anymore. So favor isn't a big lever you need to worry about. You're going to get that. What you need to start doing is making sure you max out all your blessings, and you max out all your perks, and you max out your Modron core. That's where you're going to get your power from, because favor isn't your push determinant at that point. So, you know, you're going to get deeper off those other things, and then you convert into the campaigns of your choice with your time gates and your events. Those are your big conversions at that point. If I got a blue from a silver chest, while white greens in that slot still drop from silver chest to fill out my collection? Yes, but there's no guarantee it's going to happen. So it's going to take a very long, this is the bane of my existence on my main account, is when I get a gap in my collection. But I finally, after 3 years, filled out all of my holes. But yes, it could potentially still drop it. If you open enough silver chests, those whites and greens will still drop. The good thing is greens can also drop out of gold chests too. So it's the whites that tend to be the challenging one. Upalik, as a new player, should I focus on the events or push through the story? Events. Always when an event is up, focus on the event. There will be times where, you know, maybe you're out of tokens, where you know, while you're waiting for them to build up to do more event stuff, you can go back and do main adventure. But your primary focus during an event is doing the event, getting the champions, completing their variants, and farming chests for gear. Right. Question: do you know the name of the fonts you use for captions? I like the look. Oh. No, I do not. I'd have to look it up, and I can't do it live on the show, or that screen goes away. Oh, no. It is... So I use a website called Web Captioner. I will totally promote them because it's great and it's free, and the person that makes it does it in their spare time just to help out with accessibility for things like this. This is it has something to do with, I don't remember the exact name, but I want to say it has the dyslexic in the name. It's basically it's supposed to be a super readable font for people who have dyslexia. So I'm trying to make sure that, you know, we're as accessible as possible. So look for the one that has that. I believe there's only one with that name when you use Web Captioner. What happens at 550? Oh, well, we saw that. Oh, and now we're on 600. Wow. Yeah. So we beat the game, folks. Well, we completed the Gargoyle. Let's see if this formation can push it even through 600 since we're at it. We only have a couple minutes left. I don't need to start over. And that was all the questions, folks. So thank you for hanging out today. I know at one point we had about like 500 people in chat. That's a lot. That's great. Saturday mornings. Almost as fun as cartoons. Next week, let's see. Do I know what next week's deep dive is? I think I do. I think Dylan and I figured that out. Oh, yes. Next week, we are going to do Gaarawarr's Guide to Dragonbait, which is nice that I just refreshed myself and unlocked him on my other account Thursday. So if you have questions about Dragonbait specifically, we'll talk about him as a champion. But more importantly, we will dive into his mission, Asoriel's Resolve. If you've been having trouble getting through Asoriel's Resolve, like the vanilla version, or any of the patron versions, we can talk about those. But I will be doing the vanilla version specifically again on stream. And we'll talk about the challenges that come with doing his patron versions. But it all comes down to building a right formation and having, having nice champions is good. But again, I just did this on my brand new account where I don't have a lot of options. I mean, I have some, but I don't have 2 champions in every slot yet. There are a couple slots that I don't have options for, but I'll talk to you about what kind of are the most optimal choices, and kind of what you want to shoot for. If you're playing right now, you should have picked up Dinar in the current event. Dinar is fantastic for Dragonbait's unlock mission for Asoriel's Resolve. So is Esmeralda. Don't let anybody tell you any different. She's fantastic. She has a wonderful niche against undead and armored, and the boss, Valindra, is both of those things. So she does some work in Asoriel's Resolve. Avrin is in this event too, so if you're playing right now, you've picked up 3 great champions for helping you to unlock Dragonbait. And honestly, I think the only 3 you really need. I have Crawl backing me up on my bench as well on that account, but honestly, we didn't even need his ultimate, and that's usually what people want, although his pain stacks definitely helped. But we'll talk about all of that next week. Yeah. So, let's see, do we have any... The font is Open Dyslexic. Yes, that's exactly the name. Thank you to whoever put that. Oh, Deroga Day. Yeah, that's the name. Open Dyslexic is the font I use for my closed captioning. And web captioner, I mean, I know people make fun of the translations, or the way it kind of translates my speech sometimes. It does the best it can, folks. It does a really good job if you're having normal conversations. I think especially since I've updated my my audio setup, it can hear me a little better. It definitely wants, clear communication at all times. But when you start talking fantasy names like Ashara and Krull and Beetle, like it's never going to do those. And sometimes it gets a little off, but it does its best and it helps people, tune into the streams. So make sure you're making things accessible, folks, if you're making content on the internet. And that's going to be it. I'm out, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will catch you all on Monday, hopefully, for Monday morning is now Champions of Lore, early in the morning. I don't have it on my calendar for times, but I want to say it's like... let's see. So Improvised Champion starts at 1. I want to say Champions of Lore is like 11 a.m.? Maybe like 11 to 12? Because then I think there's like an hour break before... Jay's going to tell me. Thank you, Jay. Yes. 11 to 12 Pacific. So catch that out. That is awesome. It is Trevor from one of the oh man. Is it difficulty class? I'm mad at myself for not knowing what podcast Trevor's on. And then B. Dave Walters and Aaron M. Evans of all the Dungeons and Dragons fame. They talk about like fun lore things. It's fantastic. It's only an hour long, and honestly, I would like it to be like 3 hours long. But those people, yes, difficulty class podcast is what Jay thinks it is too. I would love it to be like 3 hours of lore with those wonderful people because they're great conversations. So I will see you there. Hopefully you join me. Have a great weekend, everybody. And make sure if you're in the United States, you're either doing your early voting this week or you're voting on Tuesday. All right. Bye. Ooh, disembodied spooky voice is here to say have a happy and safe Halloween if you go out or if you host trick-or-treaters. Make sure you have your masks covering your mouth and nose. Make sure you're using hand sanitizers. Don't spread anything other than cheer and fun and spookiness. Bye, everybody.